G'day, I'm Stephen Page from Page Provan Family and Fertility Lawyers, and welcome to the Australian Family and Fertility Law podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. We love our subscribers, thank you. This video is about surrogacy in South Africa for Australians. Now, South Africa isn't a common destination for Australians. You would think it would be a fairly common destination for surrogacy because, well, it's just there, at least if you're on the West Coast, it's just there. There are lots of South Africans living in Australia. It's one of the top migration places for South Africans, and it's cheap and it's high quality IVF. In another video, I've just talked about egg donation in South Africa for Australians. But this video is just about surrogacy. And there is a restriction in undertaking surrogacy in South Africa. It's not that surrogacy in South Africa has to be altruistic like it does in Australia. It's this: you cannot access surrogacy in South Africa unless you're domiciled there. And domicile is a legal term, and it's to do with your home. It comes from a Latin root, domus, and if we just think of words like domestic, it's to do, what is your home? Where is your permanent home? So you can really only access surrogacy in South Africa if you're prepared to live there. And of course, most of my clients aren't. But there's a small group of clients that I've seen who have done that and have had children from there, and they are the South African diaspora. So many South Africans have migrated to Australia. They've gone to Perth or Sydney, Melbourne and southeast Queensland, and some of them have looked at going back and gone back to South Africa, at least for their surrogacy journey, and maybe after that either stayed there or come back here. So for those, surrogacy is available. There have been delays in a couple of those journeys in finding surrogates in South Africa, but there are certainly surrogates available in South Africa, and as I said, surrogacy there must be altruistic. In order to be recognised as parents in South Africa, you have to obtain a court order. The court is at the opposite end of the spectrum from Australia. In Australia, the child is born first, and then after the child is born, you then go to court to get an order for transfer of parentage. In South Africa, it's a preconception order. In other words, before the embryo is created, before it's implanted into the surrogate, you have to get permission from the court to proceed. But the effect of the court order is that when the child is born, you are recognised as the parents. Now, in terms of bringing the child back to Australia, certainly the family court, as long ago as 2013, said if you're living in South Africa and you're recognised in South Africa as a parent, then you're recognised under the Family Law Act as a parent. One would think from that there should not be difficulty in obtaining Australian citizenship by descent. In addition, in a recent video, I talked about the changes that happened on April Fool's Day 2025 with the commencement of the family law regulations. South Africa is one of those destinations that if you're shown on the birth certificate as the parents, you are presumed under our Family Law Act to be the parents here. Now, I should say if you're unmarried and in Western Australia, different rules may apply to you. Because Western Australia, alone of all our states and territories, has special rules dealing with parentage. And there's this history to that, and I won't go into that for this video, but just be aware of it. Otherwise, if you're married, then you will be recognised in Western Australia as well, because the Family Law Act applies to children of the marriage. And the Family Law Act is quite clear that if you are recognised under the birth certificate in one of these countries, one of the countries being South Africa, as parents, you are presumed to be the parents under the Family Act as well. However, the Department of Home Affairs, in looking at applications for Australian citizenship by descent, despite this change last year, the delegate may say, I'm still not satisfied that you're a parent, and I request that you undertake a DNA test. And of course, you're not required to do a DNA test, but it's certainly worthy of doing that. And I should say you cannot, in effect, undertake surrogacy in South Africa unless one of you has a genetic link with the child. So surrogacy in South Africa is available to singles, it's available to couples, whether gay or straight, it doesn't matter. South Africa doesn't discriminate on the basis of relationship status or sexuality, but it does require a genetic link. So you've got to establish that. Once you've got that in place, do the DNA test, then there should be no difficulty in obtaining Australian citizenship, and then the process of obtaining an Australian passport for the child and bringing your child home. This journey is a particularly complex one, like any other international surrogacy journey. As a reminder, surrogacy is the most complex form of reproduction. International surrogacy is the most complex form of surrogacy. Prevention is better than cure. It's best to get your foundations right. Just ask the builders of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Get legal advice this end before you start your journey if you're thinking of South Africa, so as well as advice over there to make sure you do it right. South Africa is not right for most intended parents, but there are some it is right for. Thank you for watching and listening. I'm Stephen Page from Page Provan Family and Fertility Lawyers. This is the Australian Family and Fertility Law Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. We love our subscribers. Thank you.